So now I would like to call our last speakers, Dr. Muhammad Abdul Momen, Assistant Professor, Department of Business Administration, Dr. Akhtar Zahan, Assistant Professor, Department of English, and Mr. Shahryar Khandekar, Senior Lecturer, Department of Social Relations, East West University, Bangladesh. And they are presenting on service quality dimensions and student satisfaction in higher education in Bangladesh. And this session will be chaired by Professor Dr. Arshad M. Chaudhary, Dean, School of Engineering, BRAC University, Bangladesh. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Farhan, once again. Welcome back to the last session of this symposium. Our session is titled Service Quality Dimensions and Student Satisfaction in Higher Education in Bangladesh. So rather than, I think, introducing all the three speakers, I would like to invite the speakers to start their presentation and briefly also introduce themselves for the sake of time. Thank you.
Shahryar, over to you.
Honorable Program Chair, Professor Dr. Mohammad Farshuddin, Chief Advisor and Founder, Vice Chancellor, East West University. Distinguished special guest, Professor Dr. M.M. Shahidul Hassan, Vice Chancellor, East West University. Professor Dr. Mohammad Ziaul Haq Mamun, Vice Chancellor, East West University. Esteemed Session Chair, Professor Chaudhary, respected colleagues. Good evening and welcome to our presentation on service quality dimensions and student satisfaction at higher education in Bangladesh. I am Shahryar Khandekar, Senior Lecturer at the Social Relations, and my team comprises of Dr. Momen and Dr. Jahan. Now, the agendas of our presentation today will be looking at identifying the service quality gaps in higher education, demonstrating the 5 dimensions of service quality measured in the ServQual model, and determining the crucial factors such as teachers' role in measuring student satisfaction at higher education in Bangladesh. Now, the quality in higher education is essential for socio-economic development because they prepare individuals for entering the workforce in professional areas. None of the set of higher education and research. Currently, 48% of Bangladesh's total population is under the age of 24. Higher education is a focus of Target 4.3 and plays an important role in advancing the quality of learning and to develop critical thinking skills among students. Today, Bangladesh has 156 public and private universities. Total number of tertiary education students increased from 1.57 million in 2010 to 2.9 million in 2017. The Private University Act of Bangladesh was passed in the National Parliament, and after that, the first private university started its. At present time, University Grants Commission is the only regulatory body to regulate private universities in Bangladesh, which also ensures higher quality of education. Now, if you come to define what student satisfaction is, Law 2010 defines student satisfaction as the subjective perceptions on students' part of how well a learning environment supports academic success. Literature looking at student satisfaction issues spans several decades, and it was in the 1970s that this literature started to emerge. That was primarily due to issues with student dissatisfaction in many countries, including the United States, where interest in this research area actually started. But more recently, the rationale for actually looking at student satisfaction relates to quality assurance in universities. Many countries are systematically collecting data on student satisfaction, and one of the ways in which this data has been used is to construct ranking of universities. For example, in Australia, the Good Universities Guide is published every year. And one of the key outcomes of that is to find out what students think about their educational experiences. Similarly, in the UK, the Times Higher Education Student Experience Ranking is also published annually. So what determines student satisfaction? Literature review conducted in this area found different studies that were conducted in different parts of the world. A UK study led by Lenton found that student satisfaction differed by fields of study and resourcing levels, such as staff to student ratios. Another study conducted in the United States by Soraya and Boltman found that students with lower levels of students with who comes from lower socioeconomic background found had lower levels of student satisfaction. The rationale behind that was they had lower sense of belonging as well as issues in integrating into the academic environment. A recent study conducted in Bangladesh by Asaduzzaman, Hossein, and Rahman found the following elements to play a significant role in student satisfaction. The elements being tangibility, responsiveness, reliability, assurance, and empathy, all of the ServQual model, which will be discussed by Dr. Momen later on in his presentation. Amidst the global pandemic, another recent study conducted in India by Gopal Singh and Agarwal found quality of the instructor, course design, prompt feedback, and expectations of students to positively impact student satisfaction. Barua and Sarwardin, 2021, defined service quality as an evaluation of service receiver about the overall performance of service delivery of an institution. For a long time now, universities have preferred to focus on their internal academic needs rather than viewing students as their main customers. Now, this attitude served them well as long as the demand was greater than the supply. In the last 2 decades, more and more universities and academic colleges have been established to answer the demand for higher education, and many students are willing to study out of their countries. This shift in higher education from a supplier's market, where there is less supply than demand, and the suppliers dictate quality, to a consumer's market where there is higher supply than demand, and the customers dictate quality, has intensified competition between academic institutions. Both parents and students are now looking for added value for their money, and higher education have to deliver quality that is compatible with students' expectations. Students' perception of service quality makes an education provider stand out in the mind of the consumer. While higher education management thinks no news is good news, ignoring students' remarks and complaints will harm organization success. Research actually suggests that while a satisfied consumer shares his or her satisfaction with 1 or 2 other people, dissatisfied customers, on the other hand, shares his or her experience with 9 to 10 people. Moreover, nowadays, students are equipped with mobile phones and internet technology, which allows them to share their negative remarks or comments with other people very easily. The most widely used model to measure perceived service quality was developed by Parasuraman in the 1990s. The model was devised to identify the gap in perception between what the company or higher education institutions believes is delivering to customers and the perception in the mind of the consumer. To tell you more about the ServQual model, I now invite Dr. Momen to carry on with the presentation. Dr. Momen.
Thank you, Mr. Sharia, for handing it over. It's me, Dr. Momen. Welcome you all. So we are last, but hopefully we are not least as far as the importance of the issue is concerned. Well, in the continuation of what our previous speaker was talking about, let us talk about service quality and satisfaction. The simplest definition that we have got from the gurus of service industry, such as Keller and Kotler, they are defining satisfaction as the difference between customers' expectation and, of course, their perceptions. So in the line with that, basically, the Parasuraman has developed the ServQual model to justify how customers can be satisfied as far as service quality is concerned. So that model has been basically adopted in many many researchers, such as Thiruvengadam, Russian scholars, and many other scholars in the higher educational level. So if you look at the next slide, okay, it talks about basically service quality, and service quality is usually stated as a critical requirement for establishing and sustaining satisfying relationship with valued customers. In general, perceived service quality is a precursor of satisfaction, meaning that if serve quality is not there, so there is almost no chance for students to be satisfied in higher education. Next slide, please. Okay, the picture, it talks about the whole issues. So if we look at where the states of the satisfactions, basically there can be three states of satisfactions. As we have just defined this satisfaction as the difference between expected service and perceived service, basically there can be three states of satisfactions. For instance, if expectation exceeded, meaning that if expected service if perceived services is more than what was expected by the students, of course, quality surprise can be there. And this is something to cheer about for all the students and everyone. And if it is just equals to it, then definitely this is what satisfactory quality is all about. However, if it happens to be like expectation not met, then the disaster comes, like unexpected quality is there experienced by the students. So in order to minimize that gap, or in order to be there in this within zone of tolerance, service quality dimensions can work well. And that is what Parasuleman was talking about. And these dimensions are reliability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and tangibility. So before to talk about that, let us first of all know what are the gaps available there in between expected service and perceived service, and how to minimize that. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Sharia. Okay, so let us now talk about what are the gaps. As we have just mentioned, the difference between expectation and the perceptions. So that is where the gaps is placed. And they can be basically the 5 gaps. The first gap is about the difference between management perception of what students are expecting and what students really do expect. Yes, there can be gaps because sometimes what happens, students are expecting certain level of job skills, soft skills, and certain sort of development before and during the graduation. But what happens if the service providers such as higher education authority, if they perceive that they're looking for different type of skills and different type of development, then this gap might come into place. Assume that even when there is no such gap, meaning service providers, they do understand the exact service needed by the students, still there can be gap. And one of the examples of these gaps are gap 2. This is the difference between management perceptions and service quality specifications. Even when a service provider do understand they need this sort of skills and this sort of development, but when they're transforming it into the service quality standards, if there are problems such as developing the curriculum, unable to recruit the faculty members, quality faculty members, or unable to basically set the service quality standard, this gap might come into place. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Not this one. Okay, next one. Okay. Not the previous one, Sharia. Next one.
This happens to be the next slide on the presentation.
Okay. Can I share, Sharia?
Sure.
Sorry for the interruption. Is it visible, my slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, as we have talked about the first gap and second gap, let us now talk about the third gap. Yeah.
You can make a transition mode, that'd be better.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So if you look at the third gap, it talks about the difference between service quality specifications and actual service delivery. What happens even when we have a good curriculums and well faculty members and high quality faculty members, and we have also the service quality standard, what happens when it's about giving the delivery, there can be issues such as not following the curriculum and not giving the proper services to the students. If it happens, then this gap might take place. And if you look at the fourth gap, it talks about basically the external review and the reflection of the image of the university or higher education providing institute into the ranking. So what happens, students' perception might be affected even when they don't see, their institutions are not there in the public media and even in the ranking. So this is what gap 4 is all about. And sometimes overpromise is an issue there. So if you look at in a nutshell, this is what the all 5 gaps are there. So this is where expected service and perceived difference satisfaction is there. And these perceived services can be built on the basis of 4 other gaps that we have just mentioned right now. So if we know the reasons, or if we are there to figure out the reasons, first gap happens because of lack of research orientations. And this is why basically need assessment comes into place. And then inadequate upward communications. If there are many layer of managements between the understanding the students and the top management, and if there are basically less flow of information, then gap through takes place when inadequate commitment to service quality is there, and lack of perception of feasibility, meaning like the mindset is like it cannot be done. So can-do attitude should be there. Then it happens when inadequate task standardization is there, unable to develop the exact curriculum and exact service standard. And of course, another one is very important is absence of goal setting. If there is no such issues, then this gap might take place. If you look at the next gap, it happens, the service performance gap, when role ambiguity is there between and among the staff members, no matter if it is the faculty or the admin staff. Then choice of poor employees, that can be another issue of this service performance gap. And sometimes too much control or lack of control can be the reason for this gap. And one more issue is lack of teamwork. So teamwork is needed to give a better service to the students. And if you look at the gap 4, it happens because sometimes our degrees are not accredited by the external bodies, and we're not well reviewed, and ranking matters as well in this service gap. So if you look at the service quality dimensions, as our previous speaker was talking about, Parasuraman in 1991 is one of the gurus in service industry. He has developed the ServQual model. And in this model, he has developed basically 5 dimensions that I will be presenting a bit later. And as we have mentioned, Thiru Vengadum and other researchers, they have adapted this service quality model into higher education. And many different universities across the globe, they were following same. So if we just go ahead with dimension of service quality, the first one comes reliability. Of course, the measurement items will be talked a bit later. So reliability, initially, it's about performed promised service dependably or accurately. If it is not there, of course, there would be an issue with reliability. Then responsiveness, it's about willingness to help students promptly. So avoid keeping students waiting for no apparent reason, and there should be quick recovery if service failure occurs. Then assurance is about ability to convey trust and confidence and give a feeling that students' best interest is in the service provider's heart. And empathy is a very important one, and it's even more important during this burning time of COVID, isn't it? It's about ability to be approachable, caring, understanding, and relating the students' needs. And we have to be good listeners. And tangibility is about physical facilities, such as the campus, the library facilities, and other tangible issues. So let us then know the measuring items of each one, adapted by many researchers across the globe. So while we are measuring assurance, as far as high quality service providers are concerned, the first one is that the students are being provided educational services in a timely manner. Faculty members, whether they are being innovative and agents of improvement, and staff members, if they're providing educational services to students without any mistakes. There can be, of course, honest mistakes, but it has to be properly acknowledged. Then faculty and staff members should provide services to the students equally and fairly, meaning that there should not be any sort of bias in terms of providing the service. Then students should not need to spend a long time to receive service they need. Then if we are talking about empathy, how to measure it, researchers has given a few items to measure it. The first one, faculty and staff members should pay attention to an individual student's feelings. Sometimes, with a big number size of students in a class, it's not that easy. But even when a specific feelings is not entertained, we should at least make sure that it is there to be acknowledged. Then emerging and health-related issues of the students should be dealt properly, and it happens to be true in this burning time of COVID. Then faculty and staff members should respect students' suggestions and opinions. Sometimes we faculty members are being a bit rude, not accepting suggestions and without giving any justifications. And faculty and staff members should encourage students to share their thoughts. We have to be very proactive in nature. Then classroom and office environment should be welcoming in nature. If we're talking about reliability, it has also some measuring issues, such as faculty members should be well qualified first year and aware of university's policies. Then staff members should provide services following the given timeline. Staff members should have the skills to fulfill the responsibility, and educational records of students should be properly handled. And then due services should be offered in a way that unnecessary follow-up is not required. That's what makes students really annoyed. Then as far as responsiveness is concerned, researchers has come across with few measuring items, such as if availability of person is there. Sometimes, of course, we are on leave, but we need to make sure that someone else is there just to give at least an answer. Then faculty members' capacity to solve problems when they arise. Responsiveness is also talking about channels for expressing students' complaints. If these are readily available, students are supposed to know basically where to complain and how to complain and what is the procedures and what is the stage of their complaint, etc. Queries should be dealt efficiently and promptly by both the faculty members and admin staffs. And during course registration, particularly what we've seen every now and then here today, whether they are being basically actively assisted. So that is what is responsiveness is all about. If we look at the tangibility, some measuring items has been basically identified by the researchers, such as educational resources and equipment should up to date and modern. The second one is quite interesting. Even when we see some providers, they have the modern equipment, but what happens? Their equipments are not enough in numbers. For instance, there are 40 students, but in computer lab, there are only 20 computers. So that is an issue sometimes. And then physical appearance of faculty and staff members should be appropriate. The gestures and postures in particular. Then lab and libraries should be resourceful for the respective field of the study. That's all what I have. And next issues will be basically talked by Dr. Jahan. Dr. Jahan, over to you.
Thank you, Momen, sir. Honorable Program Chair, esteemed Vice Chancellor and Pro-Vice Chancellor of East West University, distinguished guests, esteemed Session Chair, and my respected colleagues. Good evening and Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Akhtar Jahan. I am an Assistant Professor at the Department of English, East West University. Welcome to my presentation. Today, I will talk about the roles of teachers in providing quality service to the students. Just a few minutes ago, my previous presenter mentioned about 5 service quality gaps. Among those gaps, the teachers can contribute to minimize 2 gaps, which are between the service quality specifications and actual service delivery, and what service is actually delivered and what is communicated externally. Now, we need to focus on our own context. We shifted to emergency remote teaching due to the pandemic last year, and considering the present context, we actually cannot say when this pandemic is going to be over. However, whenever the government will decide to open the educational institutions in Bangladesh, at first for a few weeks or maybe for a few months, we might need to teach online and offline concurrently. And then we can go towards 2 directions according to different research findings. We can either adopt blended teaching and personalized learning, or we can go back to the traditional teaching. Since most of us have already been familiar with the useful strategies of teaching face-to-face, in this session, I will focus on the online teaching strategies which will help us to enhance the quality of our service in the virtual context. Now, what are those strategies which we can use for online teaching? The first one is teachers should maintain slow voice pitch and practice different vocal functions like pause, intensity management, which will help the students to understand the teacher talk properly in absence of eye contact and physical gestures, which they used to have in face-to-face context. Secondly, teachers should formulate interactive online strategies so that students' involvement can be increased in the class. Thirdly, teachers should focus on enhancing students' learning abilities. They can ask challenging questions in the class, which will make the students think critically. Fourthly, teachers should think more critically, practically, and creatively, and assign students with real-world case studies and problem-solving tasks. Research has shown that these types of tasks can develop students' online study success rate. Next, teachers should, start the previous slide. Next, due to the lack of high-speed internet, teachers should offer flexible teaching and assessment policies so that students can keep pace with online teaching and learning. Then, teachers should set up backup plans because they may face numerous unpredictable problems in online context. Therefore, they need to have alternative plans. If plan A does not work, they can go for plan B. If plan B does not work, then they can go for plan C. Next, teachers should transform a large class lecture to smaller modules so that students can remain focused and attentive in the class, because the students have shorter attention span in online context. Lastly, teachers should provide self-learning materials so that students can develop as autonomous learners and take part in online discussions smoothly. The next thing we need to ensure in the online context is we need to create and maintain a strong presence. In online context, teachers should have a cognitive presence, focusing on how they take into consideration students' preparedness to participate in the online learning experience. Then, teachers could have a social presence, referring to the social communication channels that teachers could open to maintain and possibly enhance the lost spontaneous student-student and student-teacher interaction. Finally, teachers must have a facilitatory presence, embracing teachers' facilitatory discourse, direct instructions regarding online tools and resources that students will need to use in the course, and of course, mentoring activities. Now, in online situation, we can face a lot of challenges. So how can we deal with those challenges? We can keep the following things in mind. At first, we can expect the unexpected and remain flexible because technology might fail at some points, which is very common. So we can inform our students beforehand about the alternative plans so that they do not get anxious if anything goes wrong. We can set clear expectations for the course, as online learning is something new to our students. We need to introduce the grading policies to them in details. Also, we can set expectations for response time. For example, students may expect you to answer within a few hours after sending an email, but it might take 24 hours for you to respond. Then we should establish a sense of comfort and connectedness. We should be welcoming in our online classes. We need to demonstrate enthusiasm and excitement about teaching the course to alleviate the fear, anxiety, and sense of isolation of our students. We must have a good balance of active leader and active observer. We will start the course as the manager of learning community, but slowly we can transfer the responsibility to the community of learners and become an observer of their learning processes. Lastly, we should we should request for regular feedbacks from our students so that we can update our course materials and tasks accordingly.
2 minutes to go. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. Finally, though technological tools and resources are necessary for online teaching, teachers' support for students through intensive monitoring of their learning processes can ensure a better service to the students. And if we can ensure the better quality of our service, we will be able to contribute to the, sir, next slide, moment, sir. We will be able to contribute to the assurance, empathy, tangibility, reliability, and responsiveness dimensions of ServQual model. So over to Moment, sir, please. Moment, sir.
Okay, so all right. My slides are not working, but anyway, we are wrapping it up because since we are the last team, so normally what audience normally they don't have enough energy at the end of the day, but still it's all right. So what we are basically wrapping up with is like we can use this ServQual data over the time during even before the enrollment of the students and during their service experience, even when they become alumni. And what happens, we can, if we collect this ServQual data, basically we can use it over the time, and this is how we can give them the real good experience at the end. So I guess it's all right from our part. If there are any questions and answers, if there are any questions, of course, we'll love to answer. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. We can take one question. Is there any question from audience? You can just turn on your mic, unmute your microphone and ask. If not, I have a very quick, well, it's not question, it's a comments, or you can as a question. You see the faculty members, we are talking about student satisfaction. How the faculty satisfaction, do you think that also impact the student satisfaction as well? If faculty members and stuff, if they are not happy in terms of their work environment, in terms of their payment, and in terms of their other issues, how can we make a good environment for the teaching and learning? Just curious, is there any thought on that?
That's a great question, sir, because barely we think about it, but the service providers should think of it, because at the end of the day, if service providers, if they're not happy, definitely it won't be possible for them to be
service,
to give the standard service for sure.
And okay, same question.
Less likely there are energy kept inside.
Yeah. So I just got one question. How can we ensure psychomotor learning in online teaching? What would be psychomotor approach in this case?
Yeah, over to you, Dr. Jahan. Will you answer this? Okay. Actually, in this pandemic time, particularly when we are now in the basically online teaching, this is not that easy. But of course, it depends on the specific school, because this is how they can basically customize their approach to a specific group of students. In general, it's very difficult to answer that.
Right. All right. So I think we are exactly on time. And with that, I'd like to conclude this session. Thank you very much to all the participants as well as our esteemed speakers. Thank you so very much. So,
thank you very much, sir. Thank you all the organizers.
I'd like to hand over to Dr. Farhana. Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Basak. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to all for focusing on a very important topic and comprehensive presentation. And thanks to Professor Dr. Arshad M. Chaudhry for conducting 2 consecutive interactive follow-up sessions. Thank you so much.